Welcome to Using Your Teacher Voice, episode 18. Just a couple nights ago, I read an interesting article about making connections with other teachers. And I've talked about that in my previous podcast before, about the value of your PLN, value of networking with other teachers. But, this article brought up a couple interesting points that I wanted to kind of co-opt and add into my own. The article, it was broken down into three pieces. It was about how to make connections, how to take advantage of those connections to get something out of them, and how to give back to those connections. And I've talked about those things before in various degrees and slightly different terminology. But this article brought up a really interesting piece that I wanted to add in. I wanted to weigh in on and add to my own thoughts. When it talked about making connections, it said, don't make connections just with people in your building. Make connections with people outside your building, outside your content area, and outside your grade level. Think about this. So when you have a group of people, a good group of network, of people that you network with within your building, these are great people because you can get instant feedback. You have a lot of very ready-made, easy access to them. They're also, because it's a live and face-to-face, you can kind of, expand on things, discuss things a little bit more, right? And because there's some familiarity there and some comfort, that you can really, kind of go to people with some issues that maybe are a little more difficult, a little more personal, not personal life, but, things that, you can open up a little bit more because you have that kind of personal connection. But here's where that gets limited. So let's say that you have a question, okay? A question that you want to bounce an idea off of somebody, or maybe it's a situation that you're trying to figure out how best to deal with within your class. And let's say there's 3 people in your network in your building that you could go to. Which person do you go to? Because when you think about those 3, probably the person that you're going to pick, because you can pick anybody, but the person you will probably gravitate to is either the person that you've done some, that you've gone to multiple times in the past, or it is going to be somebody who you probably think is going to say something that you already agree with. Maybe in the past you've taken something to them and they've, this was their solution, their suggestion, their advice was, something that was kind of in your own kind of personal area of comfort. And so when a different situation comes and you're looking for somebody, that's kind of the person you go to again, right? It's human nature and it's fine. But the problem here is that if you do that, if you seek out only those people like you or are only going to say things like you, then your network kind of shrinks a little bit. You become a little more insulated. Your decisions become a lot more homogenous. And it's not necessarily bad, but you don't get the advantage you don't get to take advantage of being connected to all these different people. So this article talked about, reaching out to people outside of your building. And that's a great point. I've taught in 3 schools, 4 if you count my student teaching. And each one of them were very different. Each one of them was very different. 3 of them, my student teaching and my last 2 schools, are in the same TV market. They're very close to each other geographically. My last school and my school that I'm in now are separated by just a few blocks. Yet each one of them has a much different culture, a much different feel, traditions and values, just the kind of the social makeup of the group. They're all different. And so if you have a network of people outside of your own building, you can really reach out and touch these people and really gain some valuable new perspective. People that will see things differently and will help you expand your own viewpoint. The next piece it talked about was talking to people connecting with people outside your content area. This took me about, half a second to figure out why. Because in my own experience, I have a guy that I work with in my building. I call him my spirit nerd, but he teaches math. I teach English. He's very analytical. He's very straightforward. He's very clear-cut, definitive, exact, precise. I tend to be a little more abstract, a little broader, a little more color-oriented. If you only dealt with people inside of your own your own content area, you might not find people with other kinds of expertise. This guy and I, we've worked together on some different projects. He's really big into coding. We've done a lot about, formulating some spreadsheet formulas that have really kind of automated some processes and stuff. Really great guy, but I've really tapped into his expertise. And if you stick to people only in your content area, you might not get that kind of diverse, expertise, specialties, interests. And then when you think about, connecting with people outside your grade level, I used to hate going to big teaching conferences. I probably still do, really. Big general teaching conferences. Because for every session that you want to go to, there's like 5 more of them on the same basic topic geared toward primary schools. Or you walk into a session that looks really good, and the first words out of the presenter's mouth is, "Hi, my name is da-da-da-da, and I teach 2nd grade." And you know exactly where this is going. This is all going to be primary geared, right? But I'm in secondary. But, think about, if you see something that's really good, that's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. How can I make that my own? And then you take it and you make it your own. I talked about this in my last podcast, something that I learned from my student teacher. When you take something and you make it your own, and you've finessed it and you've worked it over, and you've kind of taken some ownership of it, not only does it become more valuable to you, but it also becomes easier for your students to connect with. They see it as more valid. They see that you've put time and effort into it, and because of that, they treat it similarly. They connect to it more. They see the value in it because it was something you did. It wasn't a out-of-the-box solution. That's one of those business buzzwords, out-of-the-box solution. How many things in education do we do that are out-of-the-box solutions, that one size fits all, that everybody can use? Again, I think that the value of a PLN or a personal learning network is amazing, and I think everyone should have one. My PLN is very vibrant, and I can always reach out and get a hold of great people. And it stretches not only just across the state, and there's a lot of people I've connected to all over the U.S. now. And it's great, and I love it. And I think that everybody should try to develop this because the benefits of them are so amazing.